Alright, so I haven't done a video in a while. I was doing a lot of back-end things on the plugin, and some new features to do with OpenVR. I split the plugin into two modules, one that deals with OpenVR and one that deals with VR in general. So I could do interesting things like OpenVR specific effects, which you'll see in a moment here. I made it so that you can use the OpenVR keyboard, and you can attach it like a normal object in space. So I have the OpenVR keyboard here attached to this square, transforms freely with it. Now, the problem with the, I guess I should call it Steam VR keyboard, is it eats controller inputs from the engine. So you can't actually grab, pick up, or do anything. You can't move around while using this. But you can still put in values and retrieve input from it, which is exceptionally useful if you don't already have a keyboard, or you just want a quick debugging tool with events to return, what you're typing in on completion, things like that. This is great for that. You hit done, it closes it out, gets rid of the overlay it uses to render it, and you don't need to worry about it anymore. For this example, I just took a grippable static mesh component and made it so that when I use it, trigger, then it opens VR keyboard, which this is a Steam OpenVR keyboard is a component that I made. And it pulls itself, and it draws itself, and orientates itself to its parent just like it's supposed to. And there's events that are called when you click on buttons, like a character input event, and I just mapped it to, right to this controller text. Then there's one for when the keyboard closes, and one for the keyboard is done. And keyboard done returns text as well, not just a key enter text event. And keyboard closed doesn't return text, but it tells you that the keyboard's been closed. For whatever reason, it's been forced closed or something. So that's kind of cool. It's useful. It's great for debugging. But something probably cooler is this. I got my Vive tracker. I only bought one because I mainly wanted to do waist tracking, and I wasn't sure how well they worked yet. But it turns out they work pretty well. I had to get a new USB card to manage it correctly, but it does work. So I put on a Steam avatar just for this video, so I had kind of a face. Anyways, so I've been doing the player capsule and the body off of the HMD. That's the only tracking reference I have that makes any sense for it. So now that I have one of these, I was able to just mock it up onto a belt temporarily. Oh, but I added a new component to the engine as well for these that is useful for trackers since in the engine they're currently broken. And it re-enables late updates and makes them easy to work with. It's part of the OpenVR module. It's kind of hard to find belt loops in VR. All right, so I have the tracker on my back now, roughly centered. I'll make sure it's fully centered. Okay, it feels pretty good. Just attached to a random belt. Now I'll pick up this controller, which I've disabled the trigger button on, and reset it to map to that. So I'm gonna go to straight pose, so my waist is straight, and I'm gonna hit the trigger button. There. Now my hips are mapped to that. And what that means is that when I move that, I get full waist action. Which means now I can drive the player capsule off of the waist location, which is way better. And I can also drag inventory and chest space off of waist location, or waist to head, kind of simulating neck like that. You can rotate it off that axis. But being able to get the waist location is way better for the center of body, because it means you can walk right up to something, like let's say here, and just lean over it. And my collision would be back here, but my body is up here. It would be great for this. I haven't actually put it on the player capsule yet. I just did the body tracking with it. But in the future, you won't be pushed away from your head. You'll be pushed away from your waist. I set it up so that it's just one function call for this, for the parent relative attachment. which is how I'll do it with the player capsule as well. And it is set track device parent. And it'll take any component and it'll consider it a track device. It'll take its current rotation at the time of you activating it and assume that that is its natural resting position. So like here, its natural resting position is on my back. You see how it's angled a little bit because it's nestled in the crook of my back. It's not actually like a 90-degree angle. It remembers where it is initially and zeroes that out when it goes to figure out the yaw and orientation of it. So that's why I go into a flatline pose and I calibrate it by calling that function. And that's how it maps to where it's supposed to go. I'll be doing that for the player capsule as well. So I imagine that the initial would be that everyone would start off with a, it mapped to their head, like go into a calibration room or however they want to do calibration, get the tracking set up, get in a correct position where it's nice, and then calibrate, and then it's calibrated to their body like that. And it works pretty nice. Now this is specifically made for a waist, being the parent-relative attachment. So let's say if you were to go like this is not a natural waist orientation. So it's going to assume you're standing straight up here. So if you calibrate like this, it thinks this is your natural position. So when you stand up, you got one crazy back. So I can do different setups for different components, but I mean, the main use is waist as far as I'm considered for this kind of thing. So I got that working and it works well. It's got an enum for if you have the tracker on the front of the body, the back of the body, or the left or right sides, so that it can offset, you know, whatever it's, it can offset the parent relative attachment to that. And I'll use the same settings for the player capsule as well. I forgot to remove collision from this, you can climb on it. Okay. I changed a few things about B walking collision override, which is the walking collision that lets you, okay, I'm on the right one, which lets you walk through stuff like this. So normally, you know, you collide with it and pushes the world away. You set B walking collision to true, and then you set a custom collision channel and just have things ignore that collision channel. Then you can walk around in relative space normally and walk through items. But when you go to use controller or locomotion, it'll block you then or push you out of it. And a lot of people like this. And I don't personally, but a lot of people had a use for it, so I added it in, and I've been iterating over it, making it better slowly over time. I also changed something about climbing, something minor. I've done a lot of small bug improvements and fixes on the engine, so I mean on the plugin recently. Oh yeah, I forgot about this VR keyboard. It is technically a stereo layer, and as a stereo layer, it does not render to the monitor, which is why this video has 2 windows on it. So if I activate the VR keyboard, I can see it, the display mirror can see it, but the game window cannot see it. So that's why I have 2 views on this video, just to show that off. Anyways, I guess, oh, I was tracking on my tracker. I think I ran out of battery. Oh, there we go. All right, I have a hoodie on. I think it obscures it sometimes. Next thing to do, I guess, is set so you can drive the player capsule off of those trackers. And I'm going to iterate over the base code more. I have 4.16 already good to go on the plugin. They've been public on their repository for a while. So I went through all the files and made notes and got the plugin ready to go. So day 1 of 4.16, it'll be good. 4.16 is the best VR engine version yet, as every version lately has been. And I'm going to have to lock the 4.15 branch into its own because they made a lot of character movement changes and they made several VR changes that are be very difficult to support between the 2 versions. So I've been trying to make 4.15 as stable as possible before I have to lock it so that we have a good, stable, clean version of the plugin before then. So there'll be more updates in the next coming days. Oh yeah, I also added a new grip style, which isn't on this gun, but I can talk about it with this gun. I had the hybrid grip, where it doesn't use physically enabled movement when it's on your hand until it collides with something, and then it constrains it and turns on physically enabled movement. And in very few edge cases, like in, let's say you're having a block like this, and you hit a corner like this, at just the right angle, just the right speed, it clips right through. And I hated that. And I could never find a way to fix it. And so I never officially released the hybrid grip as a full grip. But recently, I took the physics grip and I made it so that when you're not colliding with something, it's 10 times as strong as what you set it to, which means it is clean to your hand. There is no wobble. You see how you move this really quickly? There's a little bit of wobble. It moves away from the hand a little bit. That's because the constraint is a little loose. But in this way, it's so strong it doesn't do that. And then when it collides with something, it loosens the constraint back up to what your settings are. So instead of jittering all over, although I mean this will anyways, it'll just act like it did before, but you'll get much better behavior out of moving it around outside of that. So, and there's that too. But I'm gonna keep working on stuff. I'm still looking for more ideas what to add, but I've added quite a bit to it recently, and it's pretty clean. I improved the running in motion by adding another running in place motion by adding another average. That's a low average, so that it stops running quicker. That's in the patch notes. It's hard to describe. But anyways, I hope to see you guys around, and I will keep working on this. Let me know what you think.
Hola.